Hi, everybody. Welcome to Under the Dome from the City of Pearl. I'm Therese Apel, the Pearl Public Information Director, and I'm here with our two favorite legislators, our two favorite hometown guys, Senator Dean Kirby and Representative Newman. Today we're going to talk about some of the things we've talked about already and some new things that will actually affect us here in Rankin County. So, guys, start off, tell us what last week was like for y'all. What did we work on?
Last week was kind of slow because we finished some appropriations stuff that it's just really just run through. I mean, the appropriations process is strange to most people, but we passed a whole lot of bills. And when I say a whole lot of bills, I'm talking about like 30 bills, and they're all done like in groups. And we have to pass them to meet the deadlines. And you know, the same thing with the Senate bills, they have to pass their bills to meet the deadlines. But they're works in progress because they don't have the final numbers until we get down to the end of the session. And so because they don't have the final numbers from 23, so they have to wait for those numbers. He can tell you a lot more about the budget process than I can, but I just know that we passed a whole lot of bills, but it really doesn't mean anything. That's just the same numbers that they had last year.
We call those dummy bills for several reasons.
Sure.
But yeah, we passed all of our appropriations. Now we're getting serious on appropriations this week. But we had deadlines we had to meet. Gene's exactly right, and we got all those out as well as the House did theirs. Now we'll come back with real numbers. So that was a busy week for appropriations, and the in block bills we're talking about. I mean, golly. As Rules Committee Chairman, I handle all the commending resolutions. I probably did 40 last week. I know Thursday, I know I did 12 in block. So it's a lot of commending and well-deserved commending resolutions, whether they be the state champions at some high school or someone that did something that no one could believe how nice or what a great job they did or whatever. So, yeah, and we're having, this week, we're having, we were talking about it earlier, Representative Newman and I were talking, we're having Cindy Hyde-Smith come this week. And then I know we got the Raymond Rangers coming that won state in basketball, and I don't even know who all else, but a lot of people. We're having a kid from Jackson Prep that's the #1 baseball player in the nation, having him come this week. A kid named Connor Griffin, who's listed in the top, if not the top draft choice in baseball. He's that good. So he will come, and those kind of things we're doing right now while we're working on numbers and doing other things that get really, really busy later. But all those people are very deserving, and we're honored to do those things for those people. So, and schools and cities and everything else you can think of. Everything, I don't know we've ever done a commending resolution for an animal yet, have we?
Not that I know of.
Not commending.
We had a particularly heroic animal, I'm sure.
But we have bills. You guys sent us 2 turtle bills. Can you believe?
Turtle bills.
They died in Rules Committee, but there were 2 bills to name the state, some type turtle or state turtle, and we just felt like at the time we had more important things to do than name turtles the state reptile or whatever a turtle is.
Well, turtles are special.
I love turtles. But people, people feel like that we should be doing sometimes more important things. Now, later in the session, that may come up and we get everything that under control.
Well, and as you said, you guys do have some pretty important topics that are going on right now, and a lot of them, we talk about what's in the news, but I think one thing that's pretty important is if you watch social media at all, you're going to see a lot of these memes and things like that are not necessarily accurate, but people share them anyway and therefore believe them. So guys, let's talk a little bit we talked about PERS last week, and you guys broke up a lot of the misconceptions. Can we talk about that again?
We can talk about that again.
Tell me what the latest is.
We're talking about it a lot to our constituents, and either in text or on Facebook or on emails or whatever. People are concerned about it. People are scared. A lot of people don't want when you start talking about changing something, they don't want any part of change. They don't want to just leave it like it is. Well, the reality is we cannot leave it like it is. At some point in time, we have got to solve what's happening to PERS. It will not affect the people that are currently retired. It will not affect the people who's going to retire anytime soon. But the people that are being hired at some point in time, we have to change something, or we're not going to be able to accommodate those people. And I don't think it's best for the state of Mississippi to change, to go away from a designated benefit fund like we have, and try to go to IRAs and all that kind of stuff. That works for private businesses, but for the state, where we're not able to compete with private businesses on what we pay, the defined benefit plan is a real attractant to a lot of people that want to know that they're going to make this amount of money through their life, know where they're working, and then to have this when they retire. And that's what we need to solve, that to make sure that we can continue to hire people in the future that so that they know what they're getting. It's important. It's extremely important to the people that are retired right now, and it's extremely important to the people that are working for the state now, and they want to know that they're going to be able to get their retirement. And we just need to make sure that happens.
Yeah, the bill that's out deals with the board. The board does not have anything to do with the benefits. The board does investments. The board deals with the public entities, and those, and they control pretty much that. But as far as a city employee, they have nothing to do with your benefits. That's a different statute totally, and that's done by the legislature. The legislature is not even thinking about and will not consider changing your benefits. As far as current employees or retirees, that's not going to change. No way is that going to change. As someone said, you can change it if you want to, but it'll take your picture off the wall, and it will. And we know that. And not only that, the legislature's under the same retirement program as any other state employee. So it would be stupid to do it. And so it's not going to happen. But people get nervous, as Gene said, and said, oh my gosh, if they change the board, they're going to do away with my 13th check and all that. We're not. That is not going to happen. I can promise that. I have not found a single legislator that wants to do that for current employees or retirees. New employees, like he said, at some point we're going to have to change that because it's kind of a two-edged sword. What we're doing is we're cutting back, and everyone says cut back government, cut back government. Well, cut back government means employees and wasteful spending in addition to employees. So as you cut back, and then as people retire, you don't have as much money coming into the system, and it creates problems for the board. So, and of course, the bill that they did, honestly, there's no doubt it's going to be amended in the Senate, but a lot, as a matter of fact. But I think the purpose of the House was, and I can't speak for the House, I can't speak for the Senate most of the time. So, but anyway, I think their purpose was to make sure qualified people were making proper investments and making sure that no wasteful spending, that we don't lose money each year, that we make money each year. And that's, I don't disagree with having qualified people on the board, but people saying, but we want people that are retirees, or we want people that are employees on the board. And I understand that too, because they're looking out for their interests. And whereas someone appointed may not, that's what they think. But surely no one would be that way. But anyway, I think you're in the bottom line, when it's all over, after making all this sausage, the end product, it's going to look good. I think you're still going to have majority of the board. I don't know this, but I would think that you're probably still going to have the majority of the board is going to be elected by current employees and retirees. And then you'll have some that are appointed. I don't know this, but I would think if anything comes out, I'll talk about that too, if anything comes out of committee, that those appointed would be in the minority, The ones appointed that are on the board now will be in the majority. So they'll still have control, but these people can give input to them. Whether or not they'll even vote, I don't know, but I think there will be people added here's the thing, if it comes out of committee. We have a 7-member committee, and it's a very, very close vote, like to one vote, whether or not it even comes out of committee.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's even going to come out of committee, and all this talk's been for nothing, but we'll see.
Sure. Well, and to kind of touch on, you talked about having the elected board members and then the appointed board members. Why is it important to have both, do you feel like? Or what's the concept behind that?
Well, I would hate to say this, but I will. It's not a popularity contest when you're dealing with $33 billion. It should not be a popularity contest. Unfortunately, they'll say, oh, George over there is running for the retirement board. He's a good guy, and he did a pretty good job for us in the city, whatever it was. So I know he'll make the right decisions. So we want George or Sam or Pete or whoever representing us on that board. But unfortunately, George doesn't know anything about investing $33 billion. So that's the reason, but that's okay because he is looking out for them. And I think whoever it is, I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. I'm just saying it would help them if they had somebody that's an investment banker, that when these people come and make recommendations to the board on investments, that particular person knows exactly what they're talking about and asks a lot of questions and says, are you sure it'll work? Because in another state, they did this or whatever. So I think having some appointed members has a lot of merits to it, as long as they're qualified. And it may be eventually, I don't know when, I don't even know what's going to be in a bill if we have a bill to send back over to the House. But eventually, I think all the board members that are current employees and retirees will have to be qualified.
Good deal. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that would be the main thing is that even if we kept an elected board altogether, they still need to be qualified. I mean, old coach out there may have been a great guy back 30 years ago, and he was, he was your friend and all that stuff, but the odds of him knowing anything about what he's dealing with and trying to hire a management company to manage all that money and to make the right decisions, I don't know that he's quite qualified for that.
Well, and I know personally I would be a disaster. I mean, I'm not somebody that
not
understands that level of investment when it comes to that much money. So, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, I used to be a senior vice president of an insurance company, and I dealt with some of those people that would come in and tell us what they're doing with the investments and all that stuff. And most of those folks talk so far above the majority of the population's head that I don't know how they really deal with them, because they're just we had to really rely on our CFO and those folks to tell us what the other people, the professionals, was telling us when they were telling us. So it's we just need to get some qualified people on that board.
Do you guys feel like that's where some of the fear comes from? Is people who, it's already a difficult subject. It's already hard to fathom that amount of money, that kind of investment. And very few of us out here are actually, in an arena where we deal with that often or understand it. Do you feel like that's where some of the worry is coming from the public?
That's where most of the worry is coming from. They don't understand. They don't really know what the board does, but they think that their buddy because they elected him. And it's the same thing with the House and the Senate. Most of the people don't really know what we do. But they know us and they like us. They trust us. Everybody in Pearl and Brandon knows Dean Kirby. They know what he stands for. They know who he is. They believe in him. So they don't have to know what's going on with that sausage making down there. They just know that they trust him to make sure that what's going to happen is right. And that's the same thing with this board. The people that elected the board, sadly, some of them don't know them. They just vote for them because that's the name they like. But they elected them. They felt like they had a connection to them, so they elected them, and they feel like they're going to take care of them. And when you start talking about the governor and the lieutenant governor appointing somebody that they don't have a clue who it is, and they don't know that they're going to take care of them and they're going to do what they're supposed to do for them, there's just a certain level of distrust there. And I don't blame them. I just hope they understand that the only thing we're trying to do is make sure that their money's taken care of.
Absolutely. Well, and on that note, you guys were telling me a little bit before we got started, there are a lot of things that are actually out there right now that would help us here in Pearl, that would also benefit Rankin County that you guys are working on. We talked about several. Which one do y'all want to start with?
Well, let's start with the one that has caused the most disruption since we tried to do it last year, and that's the red light at El Dorado and East Metro. Of course, when they opened East Metro, the first thing that happened was they started having wrecks, which we told the Department of Transportation that was going to happen, but they didn't listen. The traffic study wasn't done correctly because it was done based on traffic on El Dorado Road before there was an East Metro Parkway, and it just, so you base decisions on what you base decisions on, and it doesn't work out right. Well, that's the rule of unintended consequences. So, but they have a temporary light up there now. We need to we've got the bill in place to put the funding in place to get the red light up there that should have been there to begin with.
Now, how long would it take something like that to happen if we went ahead and got it taken care of this year, we get it passed? How long before that intersection is taken care of?
Well, it's already in the process. I mean, NDOT realizes it's got to be done. We're just getting the funding for it. So they're going to put a permanent red light up there. It's just a matter of getting the funding for it. The funding may come on the backside, but we're still going to get the red light up there.
And I appreciate the city putting a temporary red light up, and the mayor and the alderman did a really good job of making sure no one else gets hurt. I think there were 2 accidents. What was the ribbon cutting around lunch? And after lunch, there were 2 accidents, one serious accident. I understand it was one involving a patrolman, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting because red lights are the kind of thing that you see 10 dozen a day, but you don't realize how much they affect your life until there's one that's not working right.
Right.
Great. Well, so we had also talked about some of the street lights that you guys are working for.
Right. So there's a section of street lights from Pearson Road to Pirate Cove that we haven't done. I don't know that they've done the ones going other directions yet, but I know we had a bill to get it done last year. So this bill that we've got this year will just complete that section so that we'll have street lights all the way down Highway 80.
That's going to look really good too.
Yeah, it'll be the same ones like on Airport Road and on 80 going east.
Well, it makes it look like a city instead of a town.
Right.
Is what it does, and which is really important for people coming in that want to make investments in the city, or someone that wants to move here. Even if they're coming at night to look around, then it looks like a city, not some little small town. So, I think it's very important. When we did that originally, Airport Road, we wanted to do Airport Road for the simple reason that people coming to the airport and then going up to the interstate, we wanted them to know that we were a city. And not only that, it was dangerous. There just wasn't any lights there, and it was dark. And there were several accidents, and that stopped that, and pretty much stopped it. And then we went to Pirates Cove, and then actually it was supposed to go all the way to the city of Flowood, right as you get almost to the runways on the overpass on Airport Road. But the airport, FAA wouldn't let us do that, so they took it and went the other way toward Brandon for a ways, which is fine. That's what the city want to do, and that's fine. I'm just glad to have been a part of helping to get that. And actually, Mayor Rogers started that project, and he thought it was one of the most important things in the city. Mayor Wyndham has picked it up, saying it is. For the safety of the drivers in the city of Pearl. And he wants to go all the way up to, where Sutherland's 49 eventually.
We passed that last year. We funded that last year. They just hadn't got it done.
So
That aesthetic can really make a difference when
It
you got
really
people coming
does. It gives you it gives you pride in your city.
Absolutely. Let's see. And we had also talked about potentially there's some money in the works for City Hall what are we going to do there?
Yeah, Gene, we both have that bill. Go ahead.
It's money allocated to the city to upgrade City Hall, and that would be up to whatever the mayor and the board of aldermen decided to do with it. But it's not a lot of money, but it's just something to try to upgrade some of the City Hall.
Well, those updates, like we were talking about, I mean, it's just the aesthetic,
right.
Just kind of making it's about morale and it's about tourism and all kinds of things. So, okay, well, and then you guys were talking about potentially having some kind of a commission or something to talk about stormwater runoff. I know that as a reporter, I've covered dozens of floods in our areas, flash floods, that is. Talk to me about what that entails.
Okay, so let's talk the Board of Supervisors. When the ARPA money came out, the counties didn't have. It was specifically for water issues and there was a couple other things, but counties didn't really have a use for any of it. Counties don't run water departments. So they didn't really have an issue there, and whatever else the ARPA money was for. But the county said, was already working on trying to deal with some of the stormwater issues. So, and when I say stormwater issues, everybody knows that we got a creek that runs through Pearl, and it's creeks that runs the Richland Creek going out the south side of town, and all these different creeks that are always a problem whenever it's a storm. In other words, they overflow and if nothing else, it's constantly eroding the creek banks and taking people's yards or taking people's property or messing up the streets and all that. So the county was already trying to put a plan in place to try to do something with they dealt with every creek and every stream in the county. They had already mapped it all out and was trying to come up with a plan to do that when the ARPA money came available, and they realized that they had a chance to take some of that ARPA money and really move that forward. So we've got a bill. It's called a local and private bill. It only deals with Rankin County, but it would establish a board that would combine the county with the cities. The cities don't have to join, but I think most of them would want to because it's going to be beneficial to everybody. But it would involve all the cities, and that board would have control over that stormwater, and so that, like, the mayor and a couple of supervisors just came back from Washington, meeting with our delegation up there to talk about trying to get more money to do this with. But they're just trying to solve the problems that comes from stormwater, and of course, we got a river that backs up our occasionally too. So,
which is really important to Pearl. I think probably the major flood areas would be in Pearl and Florence. Actually, Florence, they have real problems.
Absolutely, that would definitely be.
And the cities don't have to join this; they just can if they want to. And I'm like Gene. I do think that majority will join. Any help we can get, we want. So.
Absolutely.
And by the way, the city, the mayor and the aldermen have done a really good job on improvements already with some ARPA money. I guess everyone's noticed going down Highway 80 what a difference that is. And hopefully that area by Little Willies and Roses and all that won't flood all the time now. So, but that's not the only areas in Pearl that flood, but that's a major problem.
Well, and that's another thing I'm glad we get to tell people about, because again, you may deal with that flood every time it floods, but you may not notice when you didn't deal with it, and you should have. Yeah. So I'm glad we get to tell people that's been in the works.
The city's also using a lot of the ARPA money that they've done to extend sewage lines out to redo. They're redoing a lot of the sewage lines. They're redoing a lot of the water lines. They're not going to be like Jackson and wait till it's all corroded and down. But I mean, they've really done a good job with the money that's been allocated to them to redo the water system.
Good deal. Okay, so before we close up, what are you guys working on this week?
committee work.
We have a lot of committee meetings.
Yeah, we're fixing to hit a deadline for the committees, everything to be out of the committees, and everything that came from the Senate is in the House, and we've got to deal with that. And they've got our bill. So, what is it? Is it Tuesday, or is it Wednesday?
Well, deadline for appropriation request is today. Actually.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the deadline for the. And we're fixing to hit that deadline for it to come out of committee. So it'll be committee work this week.
Yeah.
Maybe Thursday. Anyway, we'll be dealing with that, and then once we get bills out of committee next week, we'll be back dealing with the bills in the chamber. So
the House bills on our side that came over now are being assigned out to committees. So we're going to have a lot of committee meetings, and same thing. They're going to look at ours and hopefully take some of the Senate bills. So. That's going to be it. And then we're having a special guest, and Cindy Hyde-Smith's coming this week and speak to the Senate. Of course, she used to be in the state Senate before she became Agriculture Commissioner and then United States Senator. So we look forward to seeing Cindy. She's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
let me say one thing. If the folks in Pearl haven't been by the Department of Public Safety, the new Department of Public Safety, they need to take a ride out there and look at it and see what we've got to be very proud of. That the building's going to be here, and we're going to have a whole lot of folks working over there, and it's going to improve our business climate for the restaurants and all that stuff around here. It's going to be more competitive to get in restaurants once they get out there. But I think it's a real boost for Pearl.
It's hard to believe how large it is until you go see it. It's massive. I remember when they first started clearing the land and they had different areas, like sectioned off. And I asked a guy with the hard hat on with a blueprint under his arm, because I figured he knew what he was doing, with a pencil over his ear. Those people you can spot. And so I said, I got out of my car, I walked, I said, I understand the building's going to be here. I didn't realize it was going to be so big, but I knew it was going to be a very large building. I said, but what is all that area for? And he said, parking. I said, you could park 1,000 cars in that big an area. He said, that's probably true. So he got my attention really fast. That's how big it is. How many people will be in the building, Gene? 300 or 400?
Well, I think the way they said it was a minimum of 400.
Okay, I couldn't remember. But it's a beautiful building. It's right across the street from the crime lab, so they can work easily with the crime lab, which is right where they ought to be. As far as the Department of Public Safety.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm proud of it. I'm proud it's in Rankin County. I'm happy it's in Pearl. I'm really proud of it.
That is a big deal, because it's taken, we've been working on trying to get that over here for years.
Tom Weathersby
and Tom Weathersby worked on that forever.
Before we finally got to all the money to do it, I think it had been 16 years then. Wow. So, yeah, it's taken a long time. They were giving us a little at a time for studies. We didn't want to study. We wanted to build. And finally, we got it through. And I must say, Philip Gunn in the House and Delbert Hoseman made it happen, which I'm very grateful for. But it was needed to begin with. The building they were in, the tower over on Woodrow Wilson, that tower, you were probably going to tell this, the multiple stories, it was the leaning tower. It was actually sinking. They had several gas leaks, and several people were taken to the hospital that worked there. We don't need that. The other building, I think that building was built in the 60s or maybe 1970, but I think in the late 60s. The other one built in the other 50s actually had broken in two, and it had been patched about all it could be patched. So they had to have a new structure. So either tear it down and rebuild it on the same soil, or come out here and build it. Whether we already owned the land and it made sense to be next to the crime lab. It's right where it ought to be.
Great work.
Well, we're proud of it. Thank you.
Yes.
It's good for all of us. Good for the state.
Well, I've really enjoyed this talk. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for what you do for our state, what you do for Rankin County and Pearl.
Wow. We really appreciate you letting us tell people what's happening, because there's so many things that we see posted and all that just aren't true. They just aren't true. And, someone says, what if this happened? Next thing you know, it's happening. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And no one's even discussed that. So we've had a lot of things. People call me, I hear y'all going to do this. And I said, who in the world told you that?
Some guy with Photoshop.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you again, everyone. Thank you guys for coming. And thank you all so much for watching. We really enjoy doing this show for you guys every week. Many thanks to Senator Kirby and Representative Newman. And we'll see you guys again, same time, same place next week. Have a great day.